What's up, guys? So news reached me about like a week ago saying that Santa Monica Studio was actually thinking about cutting Kratos from God of War 2018. This was actually a big conversation within Santa Monica for a long time. Before I give my opinion, I want to talk about Cory Barlog's words on the matter. Cory said, early in discussion, people were saying we had to get rid of Kratos. It was like he's annoying, he's done. Kratos began life as an anti-hero at a time where anti-heroes in games were scarce. Using an all-new protagonist was a popular suggestion at the time, with the most common argument being that Kratos is not God of War, Greek mythology is God of War. He then went on to say they really did not like the character, they wanted a new character. It took a lot of convincing to make them think that it was a good idea. Barlog argued that Kratos' tragic and largely untapped past that is forever being branded with the ashes of his late wife and daughter, whose deaths can be traced to his violent past, could serve as a platform for stringing redemption story. The old guard at Sony Santa Monica was concerned that Atreus would turn the game into an overlong escort mission, Barlog explains. He pointed to The Last of Us as proof that partner characters don't have to be burdens, and said that ultimately it really needed to boil down to a few simple rules to prevent the player's experience from my opinion. Now, from the sound of this article, Cory really had to re-pitch Kratos into God of War Kratos because they made a lot of different characters that the story can probably be carried by somebody else. Here's him saying that really quickly.
Come to terms with who he is.
Great. And do you think that the franchise can exist without Kratos?
Good question. Yeah, absolutely. Kratos to me is still a very interesting story to tell because to me the Greek era was sort of his chapter one. But I do believe we've started to create even more characters within this one that to me they could have their own, branching series off of that.
But when I asked you guys about 6 months ago, I made a poll and it wasn't really accepted by you guys. I mean, those comments were crazy. The voting was obviously against God of War without Kratos. So my personal opinion is that you don't really know what works. Ideas may sound crazy at first, however, when implemented, it can be totally fucking different from what you expected. Like, when God of War 3 came out, if I told you the next proper sequel to the franchise will have a part where Kratos is picking flowers, you wouldn't believe me. You'd say I'm dumb, you'd say I'm stupid, you'd say I never work, and that's not what God of War is. However, in God of War 2018, we definitely got a scene when Kratos was picking flowers for somebody. And it worked. It worked very well with the narrative of the story. Kratos really didn't want to do it, but because he did something wrong to somebody and felt bad, he decided to help them with this. And he started picking flowers, and that is the fact of what happened in God of War 2018. You don't really know what's gonna work unless it's implemented, and it's implemented well in a story. I feel that God of War, the universe of God of War, has so much potential for so many different stories and so many different characters that it'll be okay for us not to be Kratos all of the time. I don't think they should kill off Kratos. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it'll be interesting to play as Atreus. Right? It'll be interesting to play as Atreus down the line. Maybe in the next game when he's a little bit older, a little bit more mature. Maybe we'll get sections where he's separate from Kratos, and we get to play as his shoes as well. Another game I think about when this comes to this is something like The Last of Us. In Last of Us 1, we played as Joel for, I say, the majority of the game. I think for the entire game, actually. No, there was a section where we played as Ellie, but we did play as Joel most of the time. I say 95% of the game was Joel. In Last of Us Part 2, we'll be playing as Ellie for the entire time. That is really interesting. That dynamic is interesting. Passing what we thought was the protagonist of the series, passing on to somebody else, and that's okay as long as it works well within the story. Everybody accepted Ellie as the playable character because it just makes sense. It's a little harder to see because God of War has always had Kratos at the forefront, whether it be the trilogy of games, whether it be the prequels like Ghosts of Sparta and Chains of Olympus and God of War Ascension, which I still never played. Kratos has always been the forefront of God of War. He is the God of War. But I think that it can work if there are moments where we play as somebody else. Like, how cool would it have been to play as the last Spartan in God of War 2 and his journey to the Sisters of Fate, so he can bring back the Spartan army. I think things like that is really cool. I think the God of War universe, just as Corey said, is so big that it would be really cool to play as somebody else or to experience the games from somebody else's perspective. I don't know. What do you guys think about Kratos almost being cut? You know, if he was cut from this game particularly and they added in a brand new protagonist, I think that would be a harder sell. But to be honest with you, can you really blame Sony Santa Monica for wanting to cut him? But that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts about Kratos being cut from the game and Atreus. Let me know everything you're thinking. Check out this video where I talked about the release date of the game, when it's going to be released, because Santa Monica Studios is hiring again. Also check out this video, which is the real story of Baldur, not the one we noticed in God of War 2018. I'm going to be out of here. Thank you guys for listening. Deuces.